Hey guys, welcome to Floating City Podcast, where I have interviews with people that inspire me very much. I am here with Jenifer Eggert, and she is someone that I've met here in Julian, and like I said, inspired me very much through the work she does, and as well as her past with entrepreneurialism and business and all that. So I wanted to sit down with her and ask her a couple of questions. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Alex. Hi, everyone.
Sweet. Can you come up close? Is it comfortable? Or you can bring the mic up towards you.
Oh,
whatever's easier. Okay, sweet.
Better.
Well, hello.
Hi.
So let's talk a little bit about, I guess, our relationship first.
Okay.
So I got hired for Regulars Wanted Beanery Corporation here in Julian. Mm-hmm. And that was a project that you and Christian have. How long have you guys been working on it for?
So we purchased the business in April, and we interviewed you actually with Granny's Kitchen before the transition with the prior owners, and then you came on, worked with them for a couple of weeks, and then May 1st you moved over with us, and so we've had it now since May 1st of 2019.
2019, oh yeah. Dang, it's been a bit. So we're like homies now, pretty much.
Of course.
And so you came to Julian because of the business?
No, not really. We had bought a cabin in Julian in 2013 with my in-laws, and we just loved it up here, and Christian had grown up in Spring Valley in San Diego, so it was just a sort of a natural place for us that wasn't too far, but a getaway. And then just some life things happened, and ended up taking a year off and a road trip around the U.S. and Canada.
We will definitely get into that.
And then when we came back, we decided we wanted to try the small town living, and we loved Julian. We already had a cabin up here, so we just kept our home rented in San Diego and moved up here full time in February of 2019.
Oh, okay.
So we had the cabin from 13, but we were just coming up here periodically. And then as far as full time living locally up here was just like 2 years ago, not even.
What? So you were living here first, and then you thought about opening Regulars Wanted?
Yes, it kind of all happened together. So we moved into our cabin, and then we, at the same time, Granny's Kitchen was already up for sale, and we started looking into it. And that's, Christian and I have always wanted to do something together, and so we felt like this was a perfect opportunity to check out, and the digging and checking out and all that turned into here we are now.
Dang. Oh, let me get our Regulars Wanted mason jars out.
Yes, and Alex, I see you're wearing our shirt. Thank you.
And we're represented here.
Not me, of course, but it's right here.
So I guess, the main thing that really, for me, inspires me about you guys is your kind of drive and resilience to you have a vision, and then like whatever comes up, you guys just keep going. And I feel like a lot of it, and from what you told me, you've worked in a lot of sales, a couple of sales jobs that really taught you that. So let's go back a bit in time. And you started sales in college, you said?
I did, yeah. Okay. And that was my first real sales jobs, if I had to go back to it. So Cutco.
Cutco knives. So Vector is a company, right?
Vector Marketing, yeah.
Vector Marketing, and then it's Cutco. How does that?
So it's so Cutco is the product. It's the brand. It was established in 1949. I remember that from my basically they gave you a product presentation book. Paid you per hour to just do a demo, and you're like a 1099 contractor, and then if you sell it, great, you get the commission for it. If you don't, you still get the hourly pay. So it was multi-level in a way where you would recruit people, but it wasn't like you were the salesperson for your product and then you recruit people under you to get, to build your thing. Mm-hmm. It was more like if you wanted to go in that direction, which I ended up doing, you would go and open your own office. You would recruit your own students. You would train them. You'd have a class every single week, Friday through Sunday, train them, and then they would go out, they would do the demos, and then if they wanted to branch out and open their own business under our franchise, they could do that too. So anyway, it just taught me so much, from selling the value of the product to, here I am, 17, 18 years old. I had to come up with $120 to buy the sample kit with the folder, go through the training. All my friends thought I was crazy, crazy. They're like, don't, it's a scam and all this stuff, right?
Yep.
And it's the best thing I ever did. Most people stay, back to your point about the resilience and pushing through, which I think is an important thing to consider for people that get kind of stuck, is the average rep for Cutco stays for 10 days. That's the average longevity. I stayed for 5 years. So I was either crazy or just, never gave up, basically.
Yeah. So why did you stay? If everybody was telling you no.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think part of it is I wanted to see for myself, and then I love, when I think about it, I love to learn. I love to have the wow moments. I like to give it too, but also through some personality profiles and getting to know myself over the years with coaches and mentors, they say I really enjoy the learning process. And so I think I stuck it out for that. I also loved building a team. I was never a great salesperson personally. I would B+ at the most. But I was A+, I think, in helping other people develop their skills, So when I realized that, I turned it into more instead of just going straight to sales and trying to make all this money on sales, I had more of a passion around developing people.
That is cool.
And so I think that's why I stayed, because so I was my first branch where I opened my own business. I had to hire my own secretary. I had to buy my own furniture, and it was just a 3-month period. Had to negotiate my own lease. Literally myself, my receptionist, and then we would just, hire college kids. And first round was in Palm Springs. It was the summertime. I'd have to go out and flyer all the cars at the colleges, and I would do it in the morning, 6 a.m., go into work, start the interview process, 6 interviews a day, have a pool of 200 kids to put into a training on Thursday. Half of them would show up, so I'd end up with not quite 100, but 50 to 100, somewhere like that in the summer. And we were not profitable, and it was really hard. That first, the business, I would say, failed, and I learned a lot from it. So sticking a kid, 18 years old, with no experience to open their own business, definitely taught me a lot.
You were 16?
No, I was 18.
18.
Wait, was 18? Yeah, 18. And so that was in Palm Springs, all, rented a room from some guy, and just worked 80, 100 hours a week for 4 months. And then at the end of the 4 months, we did not do well. and the branch was just for a month, the summer anyways, closed the door. And then after I graduated college, I tried again, because then I had invested into really learning how to develop people and train them. And so from there, when I opened my own true district office year round, that's when it started to do better.
Dang, that is, I didn't know that. I like that I'm learning all this.
Yeah.
Dang.
And so yeah, that was one of the that last year of my college was probably the craziest, because I needed 22 units to graduate. Normally college semesters are 19, 16 units, something like that. So 22 was kind of pushing it already. So I'm doing 22 units, training to open a branch office, saving money to invest into opening the branch, or my new branch. It was and then I met Christian. So became long distance, because then I moved 2 hours away to Rancho Cucamonga to open my business. So it was just he and I would have conversations midnight to 2 a.m. That was the time. And we would just talk on the phone or whatever and continue our relationship that way. And then eventually I moved back to San Diego, because I couldn't take being away from him that long.
Dang. And for context, Christian is her husband, and well, at the time boyfriend, now husband.
And business
we love dearly.
And now business partner.
And now business partner. Dang, that is. And you were 18 to. When did you?
Oh, that one.
Stop?
I was 20. 21 because I was graduating college, and so that was 21. So that ended up 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, maybe almost 22, because it was 5 years with Cutco. And then, so I did about a year and a half after college with my own district office in Rancho Cucamonga, and that was great. But I was like, okay, I'm 2 hours away from my fiance. I'm 22 years old, working 100 hours a week. Is this really life? And that's when I first started to question, like, is life about this much work, and is happiness about, my work? Because it's, yes, I love work because I'm good at it.
Yes.
And people like to do things that they're good at.
Yes. And you're getting validation from people and all that.
Right. And I got trapped in that cycle of validation, So both for myself and hearing it from other people. So that was like the first time I'd ever thought to myself, wow, is life really, like, question the whole, do I need to go down this path and work as much, and like chase money, like that kind of thing.
Totally.
Which we'll come back to also later. So that was my Cutco stint. Taught me a lot, taught me resilience. Like, the only way you can get business is to ask someone at the end of the appointment. So say you were the customer, I called you, I said, hey, I'm a college student, I just have a demo to show you, I get credit either way, I get paid either way, would you see me? Then you are a complete stranger, you say, okay, you agree to it, and I come sit down, I do a whole thing for an hour, and whether you buy or not, I say, okay, I just need you to sit down, think about your friends, your neighbors, anyone who would just allow me to call them and ask them if I could see them. I just need about 20. And I'd look them straight in the eye and say it just like that.
Just write it down for me.
Yep.
Dang.
And I would just turn the page. And like, they teach you, and maybe I'm just so literal that, like, I was like, okay, that's what we do. Then I just do it. And almost every time I would get at least 10 names. And so I was one of few people who joined Cutco, not in my backyard, not in where I grew up. I was by myself in a new area. So I literally, like, someone gave me one lead, actually four leads, one customer agreed to see me. And from there, it turned into over 200 people to go call, prospects. So every Friday or Thursday night, hit the phones, just start dialing and saying, hey, can I come do this demo at your house? Like, 18-year-old girl coming to someone's house, mostly housewives.
Yeah.
But it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, you got rejected a lot?
A lot.
Dang. And for people that are in Vector now, or in Cutco, do you even recommend it as, like, 100%. Nowadays? 100%?
1,000 times, yes.
So it did get profitable?
Oh, no, it's a great, yes. And so students, like, I paid my way through college. Like, so, I didn't I had some debt at the end, but not a ton, because when you do sell a $600 to $1,000 knife set to one customer, and that's how much they are, because it's a premium product, they last forever. If I break it 50 years from now, I can return it to the company, they'll send me a brand new one. It's true. So product wise, it was an easy sell. Like, honestly, that was not the hard part. What was my point in telling you all that?
Is it worth?
Oh, yes. And so the, like, financially, you get half of the commission. So I sell one set for $1,000 as a college student. I'm good for like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or 4 or longer. So financially, yes, it's worth it for anyone to look into, but really it's about the skills, like not being afraid to pick up the phone. If you're feeling lazy, I don't want to call this next one, just do it. Like, just get it over with. It taught me to not procrastinate, because all the things were challenging. Like, none of it was easy. Besides the product and talking about the product, but otherwise it was like everything was a chore, and you have to go to the meetings every week, so you get inspired and you learn, and you listen to them, and just basically do what they tell you to do, and the program works. So yeah, I would.
Wow.
Yeah, and anyone who calls me, I take the time, I listen to their demo, or I have them come over now. You know, like the kids nowadays that are going into the program. If I get referred by a friend,
you're like, yes, I'll do it.
Let's do it.
Dang, that's really cool. Actually, yeah, I actually was. Someone offered me a thing there, and to work with them, and then immediately someone's like, don't do it. Mm-hmm. Don't do it. It's a horrible idea. If you don't sell it, you don't get paid. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even get into it. Same thing with my brother. But it's so funny when you hear there's like such a stigma around something, but then when you're actually in it and you do the work, it actually does work.
Perspective, it is.
Perspective. Yeah. So that's the advice that you'd have for Vector people right now, or people that are in cutco?
Yeah, like stick with it. And when you get that, the 10th no, it's okay. Don't take it personal. And actually, I took that to everything else I did. It was a big help, because then when I moved to my next career, really was a career with AutoTrader. Well, there was a little stint in the middle. I did nurse recruiting for a year, and that was interesting. But anyways, so going into AutoTrader and Kelley Blue Book, I worked for them, really Cox, for 15 years. And I remember one customer at a Toyota dealership. I walked in, and I think I might have told you the story before. He started, like, as soon as I told him who I was, from AutoTrader, I've never met you before. It's so nice to meet you. F-bombs, started pointing, get out, don't ever come back, I hate you guys, like the company, right? And so I said, okay, so I left, and then about a month later, I was like, well, I don't have anyone else to go prospect, so I'll go back in. So I went in, and he was like, you came back after I yelled at you like that and cussed you out? And I was like, well, you weren't mad at me, like, personally, right? And he's like, well, no. And I said, okay, then can we sit down?
So that you learned from being cutco?
Yes, because I wouldn't have had the cojones to, like, say that to anyone, I don't think. Like, I don't, I don't think so. Because I also grew up in a very, like, conservative culture, like with from Thailand originally, and
yes.
Very, like, modest, don't say too much kind of culture, and so it was definitely against my upbringing.
Yes.
Although my mom pushed the limits. She's American, so she was American, so she definitely got a lot of looks while we lived in Thailand because she just has very strong will.
Yes. Okay. Wow. Oh, and you grew up in Thailand.
Yeah, so I was born in Thailand and came here for a few months, like 9 months when I was 5, just with my mother, and she couldn't make it long term, so we went back.
Visa-wise? Or just she didn't like it there?
Well, I think she just, or my dad begged her to come back or something. I don't know. I don't remember, because I was 6 at the time, what the real reason was to go back. And then 11 is when, like, she'd saved up all this money, kind of hid it from my dad, and had this plan to, my grandmother, who I'd never really known, suffered from alcoholism, and she was dying. And so she used that as the sort of catalyst to move us back to the U.S., but she didn't tell that to my dad. She just moved us and saved all this money and kind of hid it and said, nope, we're not coming back after we got here.
Dang.
So,
and you were 6 when you came here?
No, 11. So 11. that was, so 5 to 6 for just 9 months, and then back here when I was 11. And so 11, we moved straight to Los Angeles area. Actually, I ended up living with her aunt for a year while she tried to she had no high school education from the U.S. And so she was just trying to find a job so that she can get an apartment so that we can have a place to live. So I stayed with her aunt while she kind of moved around and stayed with friends for a year. And then we settled in a place called Gardena, which was not a good neighborhood in Los Angeles. That's where I first saw gangs and people getting jumped and...
Whoa, did you ever get jumped or anything like that? Fights?
No, but people want, it's like joining a club. Like, they wanted me to get into their gang. They talked about, this is how you, I was like, I have to fight someone? No. Thank you. So peer pressure like that. And I think I considered it just like to have more friends or something. But no, I never went that direction.
And do you think you moving around a lot like that when you were younger, now it makes it so you could, you've traveled the country, you've moved around a bunch. Is that, you think that played a part in how you are now?
Yeah, and actually I was talking to Christian's mom the other day, and she gave me some really good insight, which I hadn't realized. So still today I'm learning every day things about myself, about other people. But so my whole life, I hang on to my friendships. Like, I'll hang on to them, whether they're good for me or not, and just can keep collecting, Whereas I see other people, they stop toxic relationships, or they just decide one day, Alex, you're no longer my friend, I cut you off. And they don't say it like that, but that's just how it happens. And I always wonder, like, how do people do that? How do you just walk away from a friendship of 10 years or 20 years or whatever, right? So I was talking to Christian's mom, my mother-in-law, about that. She's like, well, the thing is, I think with you having to move around, you didn't have family, and so you just gravitated to your friendships and held on to them like for dear life, because this was your family now.
Yes,
and
your connection.
So for you you can't let go. Like, you can't let it go. And so it's okay to, and her point was too, like, and Peyton's going to be different, which is my son, 6 years old, or 6, almost 7. And so like he's going to be different, and he may want to dismiss friendships. He may want to hang on to them, but you don't have to like force. And she wasn't telling me what to do at all. Like, it was just like really good. Smacked me in the eye, middle of the, like, it just like, wow, I didn't realize that. Yeah, so I think the moving had a lot to do with that, moving around, and that's why I kind of hang on to my relationships and try so hard.
But then that also comes with, like, you put in a lot of work in your relationships too.
Yep. So
that's a benefit of it. Wow, very cool. And then, so really quick, the nursing recruiting. What did you do for that? Is that?
So that was, let's see so with Cutco, it was winding down. I made a decision to move back to San Diego to be closer to Christian and close the business. And so, I was just kind of looking for any job. So I went to a recruiting company. They found this job. So it was called American Mobile Healthcare. Their job is to place RNs or otherwise into hospitals all around the country, generally for a 3-month stint at a time. So if you were a nurse, I would call you. I'd have it was just a call center basically. So I would call you and just say, hey, I see you applied for this travel nurse job. And if you're interested, then I would place you with a hospital in, say, Chicago. And you would move there, and the company would pay your stipend, your living stipend. The hospital would pay your wages. The pay was great. So again, it was a pretty easy sell for the most part. But because the company exploded so fast, they promoted, in my opinion, salespeople who were not ready for leadership. And, for instance, like I just spent a year, I'd worked that holiday season. I was giving them a 8-month heads up that I'm getting married the following holiday season if I could get a few days off. And they said, well, not sure, because the senior recruiters would not like that. So can you move your wedding date? And so I'm just like, no, I'll just resign. And that's what I did. So, so I'm a type of person that I do complain, it's hot, it's hot, but like it's human nature complain. But also I'm all about like, what's the point? I'll complain, I'll say it one time, and then it's basically, if I don't change it, that's on me, no more complaining. And so otherwise just change it, which I did. I said, I'm not going to complain. Great, that's their decision. Here's my 2 weeks notice. And that's what happened.
And that was for how long?
1 year.
1 year.
Gave it a year.
Dang. And then AutoTrader.
Yeah, then AutoTrader. Oh, and then that one, instead of going to a recruiter, at the time, Monster.com was the new and up-and-coming website for job recruitment, right, or finding. So I went there, and instead of putting my resume and background on Monster directly. I just went to 4 employers, I think it was 5 or 4, I don't know, it's a while ago. And I just sent them a note directly with my resume. And I just said, seems very interesting. Would you be interested in an interview or whatever, something like that. So I targeted companies. I didn't put myself just for anyone. And so AutoTrader responded. The woman who was hiring, she ran all of San Diego, and she needed a rep for the east county part of San Diego. For all you would do is drive around, talk to car dealers, and try to sell them advertising online. That was the job. And so the woman, Cynthia Ferguson, calls me for the interview. I was at a Pier 1 import shopping, by my, I must have been with Christian. I don't know. I was there. I sat down on one of their couches and we talked for over an hour, and in the Pier 1, I know it's crazy, but we connected so quickly. It's one of few people who, it's you could talk to them for hours and hours and hours on end, and for whatever reason, we just clicked. And so,
are you still friends with her today?
Yes. And
shout out to Cynthia. Just kidding.
Yeah, no, I consider her one of my mentors and someone who changed my life. And so then we agreed to meet in person at a coffee shop the following week or whatever. So we did. And the thing that for me, because in a job interview, it's interesting. You always think about you are the candidate, so therefore, you might be nervous. But I was actually interviewing her too. It was an interesting dynamic, and because she allowed it, she allowed the vulnerability. She allowed me to ask questions, and then she took a break, took a phone call, and the way she talked to her employee Jim, I remember it they're talking about a summer conference or something like that, and just she was so excited about it, and the way she was talking to him, and you did such a great job today. I was I want to work for her. Her.
Yes.
I don't even care what we're selling. I just want to learn from her. I love her. And so
very cool.
So then then she had me do one last phone interview with the director, and he tells me years later he was washing his car while he was talking to me. Thank God he said okay.
Oh my God.
Dean Sloan. See, I remember all these people.
Dang.
He was great too. So so I've just been very, very fortunate to have a lot of great people mentor me. Even with Cutco, I could name so many great people. Chris Oakes, Wes Goddard.
Yeah.
Never saw it, but PJ. So many. So been very, very fortunate with that.
Nice.
And,
yeah.
Oh, sorry. And then so just for I guess for people who are interested in developing other people. So Cynthia, another amazing thing was so I picked up a case of water at Costco to bring to a golf event. This is with work. And threw out my back for the first time. So I'm 24 years old, and it hasn't been right since, but that's beyond. The point was I was laid up on my couch for 3 days.
Whoa.
And she came to my house multiple times just to check on me, to see how I was doing with her partner. And I was blown away. What kind of boss comes to someone's house to check on them?
Yeah.
And it was just maybe some people might think that was over. Not me. I was wow, that was amazing. So she would just do little things like that, big things too, that were above and beyond, and very funny too.
Wow, very cool. And I feel if you're in the mindset of I have a goal, or mentors show up to your life.
Yes.
If you're I want this, I want this. Yeah. So I think mentors do show up in that way too. It's not just comes up from nowhere. Not that you're saying that, but yeah. Very cool. And then you stayed in AutoTrader for how old were you when you got in?
Probably 23 or 24.
And then you left when?
So it was August of August of 2003. Yeah. No, sorry. August of 2002, and then I left 15 years later.
15 years,
yeah.
Dang. And it was a startup then, right?
It was a startup, yeah. So the AutoTrader magazine publication had been around for decades, long time. But the online version owned by Cox was basically formed to cannibalize the paper. So Cox owned the paper and they owned the online. They knew if they didn't come up with the online, someone else would, and it would take out the paper. So they came up with the online themselves.
And it took out the paper.
Took out themselves, basically.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want someone else to do it, which would have happened. So we're really smart, strategic move there. So basically, I was selling against the magazine, which was interesting. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And so the point of that was, okay, so 5 years with AutoTrader, Kelley Blue Book, because eventually Cox bought KBB. And then within Cox, it was Cox Automotive, so the sector of Cox Enterprise that did all the car business stuff. So then 5 years there, then I moved over to Manheim, which was, I stayed with AutoTrader for 8 years, Manheim for a couple of years, which was the automotive auction, and I reported directly to the president, which was crazy to me, because that was like, she's flying in private jets all over the country. It's like a $5 billion business. We're looking at the P&L every day on a $5 billion business. Cox is $5 billion. Manheim was $1 billion. $1 billion business.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and I don't know if I'm allowed to share all that, but it's, anyway, so with Cox, or Manheim, and then the last stint was with, also within Cox, we owned a lending institution that lended money to car dealers next year. So I was with them for a couple of years. So 15 total.
I recently Googled you, and there is a bunch of pictures of you. I saw Manheim.
Yeah.
And you're on Google, girl. There's a couple of different ones, different versions of you. I'm like, oh, that's Gen 2. It doesn't look like the Gen now, but that's Gen 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was pregnant, so that I was like a little meteor at that time. So yeah, it took me a couple of years to take it off, but yeah.
Whoa. Dang. So I remember you said you were at one point chasing money and title. Mm-hmm. What kind of awards and stuff did you get during that time?
It wasn't the awards. Like that was never something I cared about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, the money was for security. So I saw how my mother struggled growing her whole life. And it was hard. It was a hard struggle. She had a hard life. So first off, I never wanted to be her, like in that way. And so it was definitely a protection, kind of coming from a fear-based, like I need to make a lot of money and enough that I don't even have to worry or think about it. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the catalyst. But then also my dad and the Thai culture, like you just, you want to have an education, you want to like have a good, strong career and that whole thing. So I think the money part, it was just that drive. Like I just wanted to make sure I kept having that and climbing the ladder. Then it turned into sort of materialism where, I would go out and buy the name brand stuff so I can tell, I don't think I knew this until later on in life, but like to tell people basically like, I have money now, flaunt it, or, driving Mercedes. And so then now like I'm back to, I don't really care about those things again. But at the time, I think I was doing it for that. I was doing it to keep up with the Joneses. I was doing, and not knowing that like a lot of my friendship base was not doing the same kind of thing, weren't there, but I just figured they were because we're all friends. And, that's what we strive to do. Title, I think my ego, just told me like, oh, now I have all this experience. So I never felt like I deserved a promotion. Like, oh, like you have to give me the job because I've been doing this for so long. Like I never came from that angle.
Yeah.
I was just like, if I took care of my team and people and we did well, people took notice. And I never interviewed once within the company for a different job until the very end because I was asked to, which was a whole different kind of thing. But yeah, like, because a lot of my my peers and folks that worked for me, they're always like trying to get a new role. I want to get a promotion. I want to go from manager to director, director to VP, VP to senior VP, senior VP to president. You know, like that was, you know, they're always like looking for the next job. And I would always tell them like, hey, it's just focus on what you're doing, do it really well. And most of the time people will come to you and ask you if you want to take the job. And so I think once I got into the VP type roles, I was like, whoa, bit way more off than I could chew. Like it was, you know, I started.
Too much work?
No, it was, I'm so young. Like, should I be the one that they're looking to for these things? Like, I just feel like I was, you know, my confidence was shaken at times, but then we would produce and we would do well and do great. And so the team did great. So we were fine. But, you know, but there was a period in my life where I was like, I don't know if maybe I got fast tracked and before it's time, like before I should have.
Dang.
But anyways, so I don't know why I even said that, but yeah.
Wow. So that was quite a freaking journey.
Yeah, so that little sales job interview turned into really a career with a pension that I can tap into when I turn 65. A really great 401k, you know, and it moved us to the East Coast, moved North Carolina, New Hampshire. Christian ended up going to culinary school up there. So it exposed us to his passion and getting him ready for what we're doing now. So it all kind of worked out really well. But it was, I mean, you know, that's the positive spin. Everyone's life, it's not perfect. So, there was a lot of hardship in between. And so I don't want to negate that or make it seem like it was just, you know, butterflies and rainbows the whole time, because it wasn't. But yeah, like I think a lot of people glorify the past anyways, right? Like when you leave a relationship, when someone passes away, you remember all the good typically, like, oh, that memory of that thing or person is typically good. So right now, like as I'm sitting here going, yeah, well I can probably go and draw some bad, but I don't know.
Yeah. And so what was a kind of wrench in your life during that time in AutoTrader? Like that whole, you know, right before you retired,
so, you know, there were definitely tough parts within, you know, with all the good, but mainly the two main sort of hardships that I can recall both relate to work-life balance. And I really could never, I don't think, find that balance in the end, so that's why I chose to leave. Sorry.
No, that's okay. There's dogs in here.
Yeah, and one's very loud, breathes very heavily. So one is my husband and I, Christian and I, it was really hard because I was working all the time. I was flying all around the country. I'd be gone generally Tuesday through Thursday every week. So in some capacity, sometimes Monday through Thursday, and once in a while Monday through Friday. So it was just hard for us to get the time together that he wanted, that I wanted. So we separated. We moved into two different places for almost a year. So that was really taxing, very hard. Other things surrounding it too. And then the other, you know, sort of breaking point was when my son was born. Our son was born. It was just really like a challenge between feeling the mom guilt or the work guilt. So if I was with him, I wasn't doing well enough at work. When I was with work, I wasn't there for him. I was gone. And even though he would come with me on occasion to my trips and such, it wasn't like I was there with him the entire time. And then if I was with him or Christian, I wasn't necessarily thinking about them the whole time. I'm thinking about work, you know, like, oh, this is the next thing I need to do or whatever. So, and they picked up on that, obviously. So, you know, so it was just, that was probably the hardest part, to try to find a balance, and that's why we are doing what we're here doing today.
Yeah. And you and then you eventually retired right after that.
At 40.
40. Dang, I'm still trying to like wrap my head around that because not a lot of people retire at 40. And wait, how old are you now?
41.
41.
No, am I 41 or 42? I'm 42, sorry.
Okay.
I forgot for a second.
So that was 2 years ago you retired.
Yeah.
You were done.
Yeah, I was done with that part of my life. And Christian and I always wanted to do something together. And for him, you know, you guys heard, or you've heard of the 5 love languages before. Yeah, and so for him, time is a really important factor.
Sharing time?
Time, like that, one of the 5 or 6 love languages is time. Just spending, like, I feel loved. My thing is time. Like, I want time with the person.
Oh, yeah,
right,
sure. Okay.
Right, time.
Yeah,
So, and he's always said, like, time is, you know, he just wants more time. And I'm such a literal, I'm like, so how much time? Like, would an hour be okay a day or a week? Like, you tell me and I'll schedule it in, right? Like that. And to him, like, I mean, so here I am, like, trying to make it work with something tactical, and then he's like, no, you don't understand. I want to have time. And I'm like, well, how much time? You know, like, we'd go, this is the fight, like the one that doesn't end. It just goes in the circle, right? And so finally, I mean, really it took us a good 15 years to really understand each other and figure it out and let things go and, like, not hold on to things and love the person that's in front of you versus trying to get them to be someone else and that whole thing. So when I finally understand what he means now today. Like, it took me that long to understand what he meant by time, that it wasn't like a number, you know, maybe this week it's 1 hour, next week it's 2, it's 10, I don't know, but he just wants, so now that we're together more physically, with the restaurant, that's part of time. It's not like connection time necessarily, but we're around each other.
Yes,
we see each other.
Feel you there.
Yes. So on it, like, I think it might have taken me till maybe right this moment to fully realize and understand. That actually, like, right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got a sense of it, but, like, until this moment, I'm like, okay, I think I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it now. Like, I really get it.
Yeah, okay. So. And so it's just being in the same space.
Yeah, and his is also
sharing.
The other big one for him is acts of service. So he'll, you know, like, I'd be gone for Tuesday through Thursday. I'm in Atlanta, gone. Don't even make a phone call. And I show up, I come home, he's broken his back to completely de-weed the entire yard, clean the entire house or whatever, right? Like, all these house chores, clean out the garage. And I'm like, like nothing. And to him, like, his acts of service aren't, to me, I didn't grow up feeling love from that. Like, my thing is other things, right? So like, I really would, like, without doing it on purpose, would dismiss all these things that he does. And then now, what are we in? We're in the service business. So all day long, he's doing this. And then I can appreciate it because I'm in it too. And I understand how hard it is.
Yes.
And it's so crazy. Like, it took this restaurant really to, well, this restaurant and the RV trip, because we spent a year together in an RV, 22 feet, did not kill each other. And I think
really sharing time.
And that was wonderful. Like, great. We really got along well. The RV trip was mainly non-stressful, but there were days where, you know, like, everything broke at 6 o'clock. Where are we going to live tonight? You know, like those kind of things. But mostly it was not as stressful.
And you're with Peyton, right?
And we're with Peyton, and took 10 minutes to get out of the RV every single time, but that's beside the point.
What do you mean?
Just put your shoes on.
Oh, and how old was he during that year?
4.
Dang, what a good year to be, you know, with your parents that whole time.
Yeah. No, that was.
Man, he's
almost wish he was fully 5 the whole time, just because I think he would have remembered more. But he remembers, like, a lot of the main parts of the trip still. He refers to them, and then also I hope one day he'll do something similar with his family, and, you know, get to be like, oh, I remember this great memory. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not trying to push it on him, but maybe I am. I don't know.
Dang. Okay. Well, the Regulars Wanted journey.
Yes.
That's
how we met.
How we met, yeah.
Yes.
So Regulars Wanted was something you guys had an idea of like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, so maybe more. I don't remember exactly, but as I mentioned multiple times that we always wanted to do something together years and years ago, and I can't even remember who came up with the name. I'm sure it was Christian. So basically, like, we're like, if we're going to sell t-shirts or hot dogs, or it doesn't matter what the product is, we want regulars. We want people to keep coming back and buying the product, right? And so we bought the name, the URL on with GoDaddy, and saved it and kept renewing it every single year just in case we got into a business. And moving to Julian, given that it's a turn of the century town, it's set back in the day of 1850. Regulars wanted beanery. Beanery is a old-timey term that means cheap eats or cafe. And then we have coffee beans, we have heirloom regular beans, pot beans. So that all worked because it was, like a wanted poster, Regulars Wanted, old-timey, beanery. And it just like, boom, kind of all fell into place.
Dang. And for context for the listeners, Regulars Wanted is a cafe, restaurant, bakery up here in Julian, California, in the mountains. Yeah, so that's what that is.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Jenifer because I started working there.
Yes.
Working the front, doing a little social media, and then doing some, that's pretty much it. Yeah, well, baristaing as well.
Barista, yeah.
Yeah.
Our best salesperson.
Oh, Lord. God. Okay, well, that's coming from the best AutoTrader employee that ever existed.
No, definitely not.
Well, yeah. Vector then. Sweet. So, and then that has been quite the journey in itself, just living here, working here. The community here is amazing.
Agreed.
Oh, man. And it's like and I see what you said with like how you like to you're like a team building more than sales. You're really into, because our crew is like a little family. We see each other we work frequently, but we also get along in that sense as well. A little bit of dysfunction sometimes, but we all like play around, like joke around, it's very, very family oriented in that way. I text employees on my day off, like my coworkers on my day off. I text you on my days off. We send funny texts. So that definitely bled over into the Regulars Wanted crew. And did you have is that what you wanted when you came in, or is that just natural for you for that to be?
I think it was a learned behavior over time.
Yeah.
And it became a natural part of my DNA, so to speak.
Yeah.
As I moved into new roles. Because eventually, or not eventually, but with AutoTrader, over time, I became almost like the fixer. Like, there's this team, it's kind of dysfunctional, not working. We'll put her there, Or there's this customer who's really demanding, very, very hard to work with, doesn't like anybody, yells at everybody, we'll give him to you, And so I had to learn how to coddle those customers, hear them, and really listen to them, and not think they're crazy. Because in the end, they had real feelings about certain things. They just wanted to be heard. And without jumping in and defending and making excuses and all that. So I think those were all learned behaviors starting from Cutco. It was just trickled throughout my entire career and life and by different mentors. And that's what, one thing I want to hit on multiple times is like the value of mentorship. It doesn't have to be an older person. It could be a younger person. It could be anybody, but just to continue to be curious and learn and want to learn and grow, And so to answer your question in a very long way is, I don't think I came into it going, I had a vision of the team and how I wanted them to be. I just wanted to see who they were and then grow them as individuals, because in the end, if that happens, I think the team just all meshes better.
Totally. And I see it too, like when we have like an angry customer or like some employee that's not doing amazing, you like your attention kind of like goes right to that, and then you gracefully approach it.
Unless I'm in a bad mood.
Yes, unless you're in a bad mood. But that's, I mean, but I've never seen that either. But that's what I noticed from my perspective, at least. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Dang. And COVID times.
Okay. Well, and then I just want to go back to.
Yeah.
So with the business, Christian is definitely the creative, and he's the inspiration behind the food, and the strategy to slow cook, meaning you're waiting when you come to us, you're waiting for your food, but the strategy is we hope it's amazing and it knocks your socks off. So it might be a little longer of a wait, might be a little more expensive because we use a lot of local and organic ingredients, and we have to drive it up here an hour every single week, actually 2 hours round trip. So
bake the bread from scratch.
Right. And and so, and then we're trying to branch off and do, some wholesaling and supply the Airbnbs. So he, when I go to him, and he can really problem solve those kind of issues. And then I kind of run the day-to-day, so to speak, payroll. I'm also a barista also. So it works. Like it kind of gives us a good sense of all of it. And it's stressful because things break. A $10,000 espresso machine was not in the plans, and we have to, we already paid for it sort of like through the sale of the business, but they didn't know it was going to break, so and it did, and so we needed to get a new one. And it's a lot of troubleshooting on a daily basis. And so this weekend actually was our biggest weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right? And biggest Friday we've had since opening, biggest Monday we've had since opening, almost the biggest Saturday, and definitely the biggest Sunday. So and the fact that Christian and I were able to step away for much of that weekend, this weekend, we were so happy, proud, just,
yes,
it was just awesome. Like it felt great. And even Sunday, I did work on Sunday morning, opened, and the water heater flooded the bottom bakery area. So, there was some freak out moments even, on a Sunday, but we were able to call someone. They were able to come over right away, which is a friend of ours, both Philip and Dale, and they fixed it because we are so ingrained now in the community.
Yes.
So that's been tremendous. Like the fact that so many of our locals have welcomed us and have supported us, and we've supported them. So it's been a great exchange. And so like water heater, flood, someone could be there in 5 minutes or an hour versus trying to call a plumber. No one can come up that day, or if they do, it's going to be $500 just to come up or whatever it is, right? So maybe we were lucky, but I don't think so. I think just establishing some core relationships,
giving lots of value to the community
helped in that situation. So I, even though that happened and it could have been really bad, it turned out okay. And so we had a really amazing weekend. So I was really proud of the whole team and us too for being able to establish this and long term, because I see the look in your eye that where are we going with regulars? No, just kidding. I'm just is that I don't know. Like we're just kind of seeing, it's first just over a year. We've talked about opening a second location, another mountain town. Jokingly said we'd move to Wyoming yesterday, right? Like just as a joke, or Montana or whatever. But I think in the end, we want to be able to hand it over to people like you, right? Like or anyone who's interested that has been with us and has been loyal. And when it's like if we've had multiple weekends like this over a 2-3 year period of time or so, or maybe less, then maybe we would hand this one over to someone and then start a new one. I don't know. Like we've kind of thrown out all these ideas, not committing to anything.
Nice.
Because honestly, if we tried to plan out our life, it would have never ended up like this.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, the community has been wonderful. And during COVID times, that was a challenge. So March was the start, and we definitely took a huge hit.
That was hard.
And just trying to figure out what's happening and what is going to happen. And, you know, so like, can the employees actually even work, you know, like from little things to big things like that. And so, but we got through March, and maybe drew from the stubbornness at Cutco of pushing through no matter what, and not taking no, and not taking it as a defeat. We started to think about how can we make it work during this time. So we can only do takeout orders. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it in a big way. Let's start calling on Airbnbs in town and the hotels in town, and seeing if we can supply them with anything. And Winola Flats, which is a produce store on the side of the road in about 10 minutes away. So they started taking our products, selling our bread products. And we did a community box for during COVID, when people really couldn't go to the grocery store. So we would supply for like $40. We lost money on it. A dozen eggs, yes. You know, the milk, because the milk prices at that time shot up significantly. It was crazy. I'm like, what is this, gold? So we would sell it basically straight cost, like never get a profit. So you know, a box of potatoes, like raw potatoes, carrots, milk. You were there, and probably like $60 worth of stuff, but we would just sell it for $40 for a pack, and $60 retail. And people started to buy, instead of buying it for themselves, buying it and donating. Right? So then they would go, I don't need one personally, but go ahead and buy 3 and give it. And so we partnered with Julian Pathways, which does a lot for the Julian community. And they would find a family in need on their list and hand it out to them. So
cool.
That was, and actually that stemmed from an idea of a friend of mine who said that they were doing these boxes in San Diego and Los Angeles. And so a couple restaurants, big restaurants, like chain restaurants, were doing them for their community. So we thought, well, why couldn't we do it for ours? And we did.
Yeah, I remember restaurant owners in town would come in and they looked so stressed out. And I mean, you guys were stressed, but the resilience that, like, all right, well, this is where we're at, but what's the next thing? You know, rather than like, oh my, not that they were doing that, but like they would come in, they looked super stressed out and like figuring out like, what can we do? And we're just like, grocery box, we're only doing takeout. All right, well, it was very cool to see. Dang. Yeah, and then and now we're still during COVID times, and we're still working on, we're still getting little jabs here and there.
We are, and profitability wise, we're still very young in our tenure year at the restaurant, but we finally turned a profit in August for the first time, so that's wonderful.
Yes.
So we're not just happy and impacting the community, but we're actually making money now.
Yes.
a little bit, but
yes. That was when I saw that, I was like, yes. Oh my god, because you don't want to just be Regulars Wanted Soup Kitchen. Oh, I don't know if that's bad, but
we turn it into that.
We're not a non-profit, but yeah, that's so cool that's happened. Well, that is quite, and I'm sure there's so much more of your life. So what do you have for advice? You probably said it a couple times already, but like, what kind of advice do you have for business owners nowadays, for people that have like not what is it, the term for like a not e-commerce business? There's a
term. A
retail or restaurant. Like, what is your advice to them to stay open, and keep going through, keep fighting through it?
I mean, it's hard for me to give them advice because they've, in my mind, they've probably been doing it for way longer. But I think it's to not be afraid to try new things, and yes, it can be confusing for their customer base to go this direction today and that direction tomorrow, but to have that resilience and to listen to the customer, to be kind to the customer, not, I understand how hard it is when you're trying to do all these things and then you get this wrench thrown in, but just remember that they have, whatever their perspective is too. So Yeah, because I couldn't like say like this is. I'll give a for example. So the lady at the Chamber of Commerce made QR codes for every restaurant and every shop in town. I'm sorry, take that back. For every restaurant in town, and it just links to the menu. So I meant to do it, didn't get to it. She did them for us, thankfully, and we got probably the most scans to the point where she asked us like, well, where do you have your QR code reader? And so my point in this is it doesn't have to be big. It's just trying things and adopting things. It doesn't have to be long term. It can just be short stints, but basically that and just listening to your staff, listening to your employees, listening to your customers, just really engaging and hearing them for what they're trying to say versus what they're actually saying.
Yeah, or their reaction to it.
Yeah.
We've had some weird customers, and angry customers, but listening to what the core of what they're saying rather than reacting to their reaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Oh my Lord, Jen, you've been through a lot. Yeah, dang. I'm sure there's like so much more, but we got to keep this podcast short.
Agreed.
Do you have anything else you want to add to this conversation, complete it with?
I think, and we talked about it kind of on our break, is in essence, you don't have to be a dick or an ass to get far in life. Sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to say those words.
Please
here.
do.
But I think to remember where you came from, to stay humble, not forget that it was a struggle for you too at any given point in your life, and to not forget that, and just to try and empathize and be humble and be grateful and say thank you to everybody and yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and just be like you don't have, no one has to lose for you to win. Like that's I think probably one of the most important lessons I've learned in my life. Like I don't have to look at someone else's success, because someone's always going to be more successful, have more money, and on the opposite side be less successful and have less money. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And so if I chase the Joneses, well, how come I don't have that mansion on the hill, or how come I don't have that private jet in my in a hangar or whatever? Like I can go down that track all day long, but in the end, like I just have to be grateful for what I have, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Jen. I'm so grateful that you did this episode and came in, took time out of your busy day to come do this episode with me.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure people in town too would love to hear a little bit about your life as well, because I'm sure some people are curious. I was.
Well, thank you. And no, I appreciate you asking me, and hopefully, maybe a year from now we'll do another one or whatever, and just grow from that. And I'm sure this one was okay. Then
it was very good. I see. There's a lot of little nuggets in this.
Okay.
Okay, sweet. Thank you so much, Jen, and thanks for listening, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.